Honkai Star Rail, Father Rail to Friends, has brought out a story in which he is engaged. But also in an ambiguous way, as always, Hoyover send or translations of Chinese. Let them understand that they're going to work on their old characters to keep them functional. And a lot of people, especially main Shiley, and of course I played Star Rail the first month and I have Shiley's team, and it's not that it's main Shiley, but it's the only thing I have. I could get there. To propose to play Star Rail or come back, but the most important thing is how they will apply it, and above all, how this could affect Genshin, since in Genshin we need a lot of things. Important, we have not only characters that from the beginning to the present practically not do nothing, but mechanics and reactions that neither, and besides many people and players. Genshin, who at the time were main, insert any old character that today practically no longer do anything, e.g. Ulla, Klee, or characters from the beginning of the game, or even Arconis as Venti himself would surely come back, and there would be again many more players enjoying the game. So today we're going to talk not only about this news of Honkai Star Rail that it's going to benefit a lot, and I'm quite happy for the Honkai Star Rail players, but what things really needs Genshin Impact of this kind within what could be realistic for a game by Hoyover and Hojover himself, and that would really boost the gaming experience for you players. So leave a good like, a good ulti, subscribe, leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the video. Thanks for all the love of support. Remember that it costs you nothing, totally free, recommends and positions the video. And besides, other than thank you so much for all that, we really thank you so much. We draw a blessing day only for doing this that costs you nothing and is free, that it will profit if you are eating, and that be very rich. Thank you. Welcome guests to the directs, and leave me in the comments what you eat, why you watch the video, or what you do while you're watching the video, and we're going with what it needs. It needs capital letters, Genshin Impact, before I tell you the most important thing I ask you. To you who are watching the video, what do you think desperately needs Genshin Impact? Or what is that minimal change, a single thing that if I change the game for you would be the best game of the history of video games? Because, well, we start, obviously the news is like, explain at the beginning of the video. It's a translated phrase from Chinese, which is a little ambiguous, but people in general have understood that in some way or another they're going to try to implement that some mechanics so that players, ancient characters, can have something again of use. Many people have taken for granted that this would revive, in quotation marks, ancient characters like could be mainly Shelley, the first promotional and the first hyper carry of the game. Let's say in Yuan, it was then the second Electro, but basically this Jules can implement as you like, and what I mean that many are understanding and assuming that somehow they're going to improve these characters so they're in what's called goal. We all know that in Star Rail today the goal has an evolution and a power creep a lot. Those who do not explain it to you at first has a much bigger, higher and advanced power creep. That's what Genshin has, and literally every new character bursts all of the above. Every new character is a radical and total change to everything that is used up to that moment, and capable many. And many of you are thinking that what Star Rail is going to do is somehow bring in some Shiley rework or this mechanics they're doing on Star Rail to bring in a character like, for example, Dangan or March 7 or Erta herself, who is again another new character that they're going to sell that it's just the representation of the old one, but you can play with the two of them, time so to speak, or they're going to get some way to endgame me in which you can use these characters, or tell you in this mode endgame you can only use this, and this. Doesn't it sound like fantasy theater where you're limited to elements so that for whatever you can put in a Klee that doesn't carry, that you don't use a lot, but as it puts you element pyro comes to you, well, play Klee even if it is level 80 or 90, and as theater halls are very easy. You have the feeling Mirage, of course, that cool Klee that's strong is because the halls are broken. to close the first point and now explain to you what Genshin would really need and how I could really fix it, Hoi. I hope it's not bait, but Hoji's been pretty good. By Tero, with many things, mainly Frost, to the present point where it seems that it will. Object to this day that rerolls all substats of an item that was good in principle, and then went up. It is also possible for you to use it and back up again all wrong, and then you've wasted this item, but then the magic of the gacha inside the gacha inside the gacha. But to finish, I think it is part of, as the typical one sold in a ho mode, where many players are happy with Star Rail or look what they're going to do, and then when they implement it capable, it's a kind of theater. Like in Genshin Impact, where basically they tell you, because you can only use, I don't know, characters from such a version to the back, or characters of the quantum element, or characters of I don't know what, and then do. A Monkey Pyro is going to say a monoquantum, for example, of Shelly, Silver Wolf, and some other character of Star Rail, some will say, but Phil knows him Star Rail. I know him the first month, then I don't know him anymore, but basically beware of what Hoi does now, all this, how it could actually be implemented in Genshin, and how and what could really be improved in Genshin. Because to summarize and be very clear, I think that it takes two important things. Number one, if they actually implement just the mechanics already. Existing Star Rail, where characters come back with a new banner and the character is another different character alluding to the previous one, and yet that same character. The rest is to say that they are made as a new character, but improving the previous one, in my opinion, and leaving me in the comments is also part of that whole, which has given us so much time crumbs that we settle for anything, and it's true, but in my opinion, if they get a Zhongli untied, Zhongli unchained a Zhongli Archonte, even if he was a new character, and besides giving a shield that I competed with one of the best shields in the game to give us other mechanics that we could all comment wow now if it is an Archon adapted to the current goal, or a Venti simply with cooldowns. Arranged with an ulti that does have the ability to gather any kind of enemy, since it is the Archonte and Nemo, and should have a unique mechanics like the one that has Zhongli petrifying in that, for example, Venti could gather any kind of enemies and cooldowns, for example of 15, with its ulti, or at least 12-15 or something, and have even more synergies with the current goal. I think I'd throw, and I think for me it would be something I'd be satisfied with. I don't know about you, but regardless of that, if, for example, the other solution was implemented in Genshin, they brought the famous level of noses that in the end never came level 100 with the talents 1 or 2 extra points up. They could also try to fix this mechanics by adding that new level 100 to all the characters. And that every character you could ascend to level 100 care with resources and care without other things, that this is already more important that it was measured, and that it could possibly not go up. All the characters at 100, but it was something quite exclusive and limited, but that every new character that ascends to level 100 wins a new talent of ascension. And that talent of ascension, the new mechanic synergies, and let's say try again to implement it correctly in the current goal and make it much more useful. That is the first point, and the two possible solutions that wouldn't harm anyone, in fact quite the opposite. If on the one hand they took out new characters, would be simply the same current character mechanics of making guides people get hypia comes the new Songlia Conte Ba Venti Baba, the character to continue to rework Captain Ba, reviving the physicist, making Oila 5 stars, but by sword a lying hand. I am not the ocean is a joke. And if it were another level 100 option would benefit the whole community, would be new things to learn, new guides, new entertainment content for you, and the second point you need to currently improving, and that above all is a sign and a fact currently key in Genshin Impact are reactions, because it is a key fact. Because when it came Sumer, they implemented new reactions. Above all, inside was one of the highest peaks of the game at the level of social media players. Public interest attention, and having fun. People noticed that players and their experience. They were at that point of the best, the beginning of Sumeru. so really a point they are not. Taking advantage of yo-yo, and that is something really key, is the elementary reactions of the combat. Genshin Impact, and in fact today, is another fact as a house than elementary reactions. Not only are many of them in disuse, but there are some that literally no longer serve. And they could change for the better everything we know, as Genshin is, to say, the superconductor of Creo with Electro that lowers 40% of physical resistances if they eliminate it forever from the game. Nor would the main Noila change anything in the comments saying no. And it's true you do. But it could be implemented in another way, it could be improved, and it could be reworked. That the same thing without. The crystallized reaction is true that Shilonen in quotation marks revived the Geo, but did not relive the G. Geo, by Geo's reaction, relived Jo, which is a Jesus Christ support that not only revived the Geo, but it is one of the best supports of the rest of the teams above all the top 1 and top 2 that are Ma, Yuika and Nouvillette, and they have no Geo apart from it, nor are they based on crystallization. It is true that Navia Geo improved a lot, but because Navia does a brutal damage, and it is true that more crystallized, you absorb more stacks from both the weapon and its 6 stacks of inflicted skill damage. Elementary you do for the gun to do more damage, but it's not really that I relived the bow. Geo has unique mechanics of itself, and then it shines because it's from the Geo element, but the crystallized if engine impact reworked the crystallized hydro made a reaction. I don't know about mud that would get some kind of resistance or defense down or some kind of other mechanics that we can really take advantage of, the same as crystallized pyro or cryo and electro, some other reactions or new reactions that today do not exist, but that could even be implemented, some new triple reaction since we have triple chains. Reactions today like when you throw the pyro on top of an enemy affected by the electro. Charge the famous super vaporized, i.e. making with pyro, a vaporized on the hydro, and a preloading on the electro could be done more of these combinations, or for example hyper bloom when the bloom hydro comes out with inside an enemy, and then the plotas with electro as it e. Zobla positive and beneficial for players to reactions would really change quite a bit. Quite the gameplay of the engine impact experience, some will say end, but also there was a rework to the charged electro and the NATLAN overload, the only change that really took advantage of. From that climb of scale to the reactions that there was that more are being used. The equipment of the Chevrois means literally it was Chevrus that was improved and all the equipment around. Chevrois played 2 electros, 2 pyro wars, improved a character and a team base. In the overload reactions that everyone has to a character who is Chevrus with one more change. Of reactions would occur the Sumeru effect of a lot of new learning and players interested in understanding new mechanics, etc. So little more, I think these are 2 big engine impact problems, and this is what we need in engine impact. I hope that Father King and that the players of Father King in some way or other give the correct feedback for, that this jewelers understand it and apply it correctly in engine impact. Little bit more let. A good ulti up in there. Subscribe, you leave a good comment for the algorithm, remember. If you have reached the end, leave the comments. What is the change that you create? That would return to Genshin, the best game in history, only with a change taken care of a lot, to have a lot. Very good day, do not be minis and Kaito.